In this video, I'm going to talk about the realities of owning a classic car a bit more, and also show off my latest hardware. Look, oh, wireless technology. Oh wow, yeah, now I am down with the kids. Let's crack into it. So the 2CV uses 1940s, maybe even 1930s technology in places. There are kingpins, which are the swivel pins that allow the wheels to steer. A modern car would use ball joints, which generally don't need lubrication. They're lubricated from the factory. It's all kept within the seal. As long as the seal doesn't tear, everything should be fine, which is why if the seals are torn, the MOT man will now say, well, that's going to fail. But I have to use a grease gun. So we've got a cartridge of grease in here, and when I pump the lever, grease comes out the end here, and that clips on to a little grease nipple. So Ellie has many nipples, not quite as many as a pig. And yeah, first thing I need to do is get her in the air, and this is why I don't do it very often, because I usually have trauma with grease guns, so I bought a new one last time, so hopefully I won't have that. And secondly, you have to jack the car up to get the wheels off the ground so there's no load, so the grease will go right through the kingpin. I better get her in the air, I guess. There will be a slight delay because I can see my trolley jack is on the floor here. What I can't see is the bar that goes into the back of it to make it work. It's almost as if tidying my garage would be a good idea, but I guess that's not how I roll. There are plans to tidy the garage, but yeah, I need to reproof Ellie's hood first because it has started leaking. So, oh, come on, if you were a bar, where would you be? So that hasn't been done. Ah, that's a sphere removing tool. No use because I don't have hydraulic Citroens anymore. But still, I know where it is and it's no longer on the floor, so I'm calling that progress. Oh, there we go, I found it. Unsurprisingly, it was on the floor. Right, it's coming from the side really. And one of the downsides of a 2CV is you have to jack them up quite a long way. There's that block of insulation, I'm not even sure why that's there. And what we want to do ideally is get right under the axle bolts. Although on these later 2CVs with a galvanised chassis, yeah, there you go, I can build an axle bolt there. It doesn't really matter where you jack the jack. The chassis are quite strong. I'll look underneath, make sure all is well. But yeah, 2CVs have long travel suspension, so you have to jack them quite a long way to get the wheels off the ground. There we go. That one's up. We shall insert an axle stand for safety. Lower down onto that. Yep, wheels still off the ground, that's fine. I might as well leave the jack under as well. And now I shall take you with me for a closer look. This job also involves an awful lot of lying on the ground, which is not generally something I'm overly thrilled about, but that's mainly because the ground in here is filthy. But there's the grease nipple at the bottom, so I hook the pipe up to that, and that fills the kingpin with grease, and it takes some of the play out because you always get a bit of play going on. I mean, that's a tiny amount really, but MOT men don't like that, because MOT men are trained that if there's any play at the front, it's a ball joint about to fail and it's a complete catastrophe, which is simply not true. I'll show you the other grease point. So the other grease point is, you can just see it there, there's the nipple on the front drive shaft, and that lubricates this sliding joint here. There's a sliding joint which allows the drive shaft to change, oh there we go, to change length as the wheel goes up and down. So you can see when it's down it's resting there, but with the wheel up in the air the drive shaft has got longer. So because there's a spline shaft there is a grease point, so that's another one to do. Must be said, it is a bit, if I grab the light, worryingly damp under here. I don't know if that's remnants of Ellie's old leak or if she's got a fresh one going on, but I think it would probably be a good idea to clean everything up so I have a better idea. It could just be wet from the fact it's been raining. She has been out in the rain, and yeah, but that looks like oil to me. Worrying times. Again, it could just be the remnants that have fallen into the cowling when I've had the rocker covers off last time. You can see there's a fairly fresh oil filter, also covered in oil. So yeah, it'd be a good idea to check her out a bit, I think, before we take her on a monster road trip to Scotland. So you can start to see grease coming out now, and that is a sign that you're kind of done. That's encouraging. Has it taken any play out? Yeah, it has. So I mean, that won't last because the grease soon gets pushed out again. But still, I know there's grease in the kingpin, and you're meant to do this every 1,000 kilometers. So that's every 600 miles, and I must admit, I frequently don't. Right, so you can watch that drive shaft change length as I take the weight off. First of all, go up to clear the axle stand for safety. And as I drop it down, keep an eye on it. Splodge. And there you go, it's a good demonstration of suspension travel as well. Let's see how this goes on this side. Start off by putting some lock on, it just makes access easier. There we go. And in I come with ye oldie grease gun. Again, let's just have a fair bit of play in that one. Might be an issue for the next MOT. MOT is due in January. Sorry, not January, March is when the MOT is due, I think, or possibly February. I must look into that. I hope it isn't March, because the Nipper and the Skoda are due an MOT in March. Although so was the Rover, and at least I got rid of that one. That's certainly feeling better. And we'll just straighten up the steering a bit, and we'll put another couple of pumps in. There we go. Oh, that is tight. Give me my grease nipple back. And then again, a bit of grease into the drive shaft. There we go. The only other grease point I've got nipple wise is that I've got one on the steering rack. Oh, this grease gun is a pain. Doesn't ever want to come off. Oh, there we go. Got to get the angle right. So I now have beautifully greased kingpins, and then the suspension shackles to have a go at. So this is the suspension shackle. This is the tie rod that goes to the suspension spring, and if I bring this light around here, there is the suspension spring. That hole should be at the bottom, but it shows no sign of wanting to rotate because this suspension is quite old and the spring is quite rusty in places. But there are two springs in there, independent, one for the front, one for the back, and that's what does the springing. That's what allows massive amounts of suspension travel without getting into the cabin. It's a blooming wonderful design really, but it is a bit high maintenance because you do have these shackles, and try and get the light somewhere appropriate. So yeah, the suspension shackle, there is a knife edge, a triangular piece of metal that goes through, and they do wear, so you have to watch those, and the eyes themselves can wear, and if they fail your suspension collapses, and that's apparently not fun. I've never had it happen. But you have to grease, and what you're mostly trying to do is prevent grit and bits of road muck getting in there. You're not so much trying to lubricate that knife edge, just protect it. So you can see where I've greased before, but it's clearly going to need another load. I'm not going to do that on camera because we're a bit tight for space. but I will just grease those up and then that's them done. Right, we'll just check the oil just to make sure there hasn't been any sudden drop off, but yeah, that's right on the top mark. Not very easy to see on a camera that won't focus, but that's exactly where it should be. So I think we can say all is probably well there. Well, we will keep an eye on it. Yes, this engine's still running in 300 odd miles now, and yeah, about to have a lengthy run up to Scotland. Bring on the fun. And that is it. I should remember to take my torch out, because that would be embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, that's now covered in oil, and that needs a good clean off. And my hands are covered in oil. Most of me is covered in oil, and that is kind of the reality of old car ownership sometimes. These old cars do need some love and attention. And as annoying as it is, you do have to get out in the garage and deal with it, even when it's yeah, really cold, and the last thing you want to do is be getting grease over everything. But hey, these grippers gloves do come in useful, and I do like the fact that I often wear these grippers gloves many times, and I'm not sure I'll be wearing those for anything other than greasing the car in a hurry. But right, that was it. Just a bit of prep on Ellie there, and a walk around some of the things you have to attend to on a regular basis. Oil change should be done every 3,000 miles. I'll sometimes let that slip to 5 if I'm honest. It's kind of annual, and that's about it. You just keep an eye on other levels. Gearbox oil should probably be done annually if you're doing a fair few miles. Keeps the gear change sweet, but otherwise, yeah, it's not too onerous. It's just something you have to be aware of. At some point I might do a bit of a guide to what it's like to drive a classic car, and perhaps I'll try and explain that in a future video if there's interest out there, or perhaps you're already all used to classic cars and know your way around them, and it would be a bit like teaching granny to suck eggs, as they say. Some people have noticed the grill muff on Ellie, by the way, on her grill. That is very necessary because the muff keeps the engine warm. If the ambient temperature is below 10 degrees, it's an air-cooled engine. There are no thermostats or anything like that, so the only way to keep the engine up to temperature is to fit the grill muff. Slightly different grill muff to what she would have had. She would have had a plastic one for a plastic grill. She wears a 1960s large chevron grill because they're my favourite of the 2CV grills. Just a personal thing. The front bumper is also not factory at all. It's made by Louis Barber, who used to make the 4x4 2CVs. But there you go. That's something of what life is like looking after an older classic car. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you go. I forgot I could walk around. And I shall see you in a future video. Farewell. Well, I think that worked alright, Ellie. Did you? Excellent.